Welcome to Werewolf Radar, the world's premier paranormal preparedness podcast. My name's Jordan Dahl.
Oh, I'm Roger. Sorry.
And I'm Jason. And I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
Thank you.
Let's say filling in for Nate Balding, who once again is nowhere to be found. This week's episode of Werewolf Radar is brought to you by Monstroco brand Nate Balding Finder, a small spherical metal object that when placed on the ground will lead you to Nate Balding and see where he's up to and what he's getting down to. That's their copy. This is bad copy. I'm sorry, Monstroco. Great job, but
Bad
terrible.
copy this time.
The Monstroco Nate Balding Finder Ball from Monstroco. What the fuck?
Mine hasn't arrived yet, but then I'm in the basement of the bunker, and packages always arrive later down here.
Well, here's what happens. A lot of the time, in shipment, it will squirrel its way out of the packaging and start finding Nate Balding. So wherever yours is, it's probably on its way to Nate Balding, who I would say as soon as these things hit the shelves is looking at, 8 or 10,000 of them coming down on him.
So when we find the large mass of these things,
flying high-speed ball bearing directly at his face.
Yeah, it's like a little ball bearing, right? Yeah. But then they'll just stick to him, and then we'll know where he is. He'll be hurt, but we'll know where he is.
Are they only for finding Nate Balding, or can we apply them to finding anyone else?
And which Nate Balding? Because you Google Nate Balding and you would think, and you are correct. Nate, our buddy Nate comes up first, very first picture. But then you have this guy who is a YouTuber who maintains his hair and beard very well.
It's going to find all of the Nate Baldings, which is the problem. But it will go. Yes, in multiple. Well, I mean, God, we can only hope not. Can you imagine?
Including the jumpers that have infiltrated our universe.
And does it matter if they're alive or dead?
The Nate Balding find. Okay, I can answer all your questions, thankfully, because I had these same questions, and I called the hotline. It can penetrate 9 realities deep to find a rogue Nate Balding. They have to be alive. It will find any Nate Balding, but it will go in the order of Google search results. So it will be our Nate Balding first, and then those other guys. And finally, if he does just his name at some point, it will stop working. He can at any point change his name to Nate Balder or not quite bald. And it would stop.
Good. From a standpoint of pure specifications, I think that makes it worth it, because my primary criteria is the interdimensional aspect.
Yeah, you got a rogue Balding out there. Stole something from you and took off through cowboy world, through dinosaur world, through everybody's fruits world, through couch world. Right.
Yeah. And just keeping track of all of the, keeping track of all of the worlds we've already been through, it gets pretty tedious.
I get it. Well, as long as he's not more than 9 reality layers away, then you got yourself a hell of a product from Monstroco. What the fuck?
Oh,
fantastic.
Here's a question. Perhaps call them after we record.
Yeah.
What if someone names their cat Nate Balding?
Interesting. I actually already thought of that when I was on the phone with customer service earlier. That counts, though the cat would be so far down on the list of the Google results that you wouldn't have to worry about it until basically every other Nate on the planet has been found.
So I would have thought that it would cause a Schrodinger's cat situation with the Nate Balding cat paradox.
So
it's
where you put the cat, if you name your cat Nate Balding and then you put it in a box, there's a chance that at any point you could open it and the real Nate Balding would be there.
Yeah.
Having been replaced quantumly Okay, we should probably do this fucking podcast. Welcome, Jason Cordova. It's great to see you,
Thank
pal.
you.
How you doing?
Thank you. It's good. Doing pretty well. It's a little bit cold here in the far reaches of the
wilderlands, the hinterlands,
the Nordic region. Yeah.
Where are you? I would never ask you to reveal your exact location because of the sensitive nature of the work that we do here. But are you?
Sure.
Would you say the Baltic Peninsula? Does that accurately describe it?
I'd say a Baltic coast. Yes.
Okay.
Sharing a border with an imperial power that shall not be named.
Okay.
And a time zone with another country that's in great peril.
Okay. Far out. Well, coming to us live from the front lines of paranormal, Slovenian paranormal stuff.
The Putin of paranormal.
Yes, indeed.
I'll take over everything.
How did we want to kick it off today, Raj?
Well,
I know we have a specific topic.
I have an article that I thought would be fun to talk about. So recently, we all love Bigfoot, you know?
Sure.
He's great. Sasquatch, skunk ape. Sometimes he's angry. Sometimes he's not. Sometimes they're looking for garlic. Sometimes they'll trade for garlic.
That is true.
Well, statistically, a recent study, which I shared in our Discord, is saying that sightings of Sasquatch are actually bear encounters.
Okay. Well, I mean...
And I hate to say it, but apparently statistically what we're seeing are just bears that are standing upright.
That's what they're saying, huh?
That's what they're saying.
That's what a lot of people have said for a long time.
For a very long time.
Yeah, and it simply doesn't describe
everything.
All of the encounters. It doesn't describe all of the encounters. It doesn't describe all of the behaviors, all of the vocalizations, things that people have heard and seen. People who know what a fucking bear looks like, you know?
Like this study does come from the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory.
Yeah.
And was published January 29, 2023.
Okay.
And they I have a link for COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 preprints if you're looking.
Is that like a pre-release of a virus that's coming?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm afraid to click the link.
Probably for the best.
And that's when this episode was pulled from YouTube.
Don't do it. Don't take the bait.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
Let me read on a little bit more.
Are you up in arms?
I am as well. Although I do believe some reports of people are exaggerated and could be just a bear. I've seen him swing logs, man. So like some wood knockings could be bears just having a fun time with a log.
Yeah, you remember that one bear from the internet that had like a bow staff?
I do.
He was like swinging it around and shit.
But like what I'm saying is, I guess some reports or some more reports statistically could be black bears, which this abstract does go into. If you want to read it, join our Discord. You can find that on our Twitter page. But I think still there's a creature out there. I've heard a lot of linguistic evidence of Bigfoot that blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And me and you, Jordan, went to a decent amount of linguist courses to know that like the Sierra tapes are some weird dialectical evidence of something that's out there with an unusual speech pattern. But a lot of these are...
I am inclined to agree.
A lot of these are just...
Sure.
Black bears apparently doing bizarre black bear shit.
Yeah, but how bizarre would it have to be for them to I mean, I know they can walk on their hind legs, but
which would
surely
blow my
they
fucking
don't.
mind and would excite me at first to be like, I just saw Bigfoot because my eyes aren't that good. And I saw a big, large creature.
And I mean, there are
the arms are very different. When I see a bear walk upright, its arms don't fucking move like great apes would.
Yeah. And I've seen a couple of bears in the wild, and there are people who when you do first see one, there's a part of you that's like, what the hell is that? And someone like me, like my mind goes immediately to, am I seeing him? Is this Bigfoot? And then immediately, being the type of guy who also doesn't like to, when people lie about that shit or muddy the waters, as it were, I'm like, no, that's a bear. Look at it. It's a bear. Okay, it's a moose, whatever. But I could see people who want to believe so much that they catch a glimpse of it and they're just like, yeah, that's what I saw. It had to be Bigfoot. What else would it be? There's no bears in the country, that part of the country at that time. And it's like, yeah, but bears get around. And I could see somebody believing that they saw Bigfoot when what they saw was a bear. But to say that accounts for 100% of the encounters is like, there's no way to test that in your labs.
No, there's no possible way to. Yeah, sure. A portion of them could be bears.
Sure.
And let me clarify, we're not saying that this report says 100% of them are black bears, but a larger amount than we're thinking. Sorry, go on, Jason.
Oh, sure. Another thing to take into account, that when they do that, when they are walking on their hind legs, it's not prolonged, right? Like it's only a brief period of time. They don't sustain it.
We're talking maybe like a minute at most.
Yeah. Like you could snap a picture of it or catch a glimpse of it in the woods and, not see much more of it. But yeah. And yeah, maybe more of the sightings than we think could be explained that way. You could kind of put it in the same category like with UFOs, right? You have a certain percentage that's estimated to be, easily explainable, but then we've got this chunk that's, legitimately anomalous, and those are the ones we're really interested in. So.
And we're going to be talking about some of those in our This Week of Weird, which might come out sooner than Friday.
Who knows?
Because news be fucking moving fast on what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go on with this Bigfoot fun. So the findings of this report come from data analyst Floey Foxen.
Okay.
Who made headlines last month with a similar project wherein he seemingly disproved the hypothesis that the Loch Ness Monster is an eel.
Oh.
He says no to my theory. He said, Roger, you're wrong.
No such thing as an eel ball.
And I'm all like, it's an eel ball or it's a very large conger eel. That's where the evidence points. Turning his attention toward Bigfoot, he revisited a long-standing theory which suggests that the famed cryptid is merely a black bear and found that, in this case, the data would seem to strengthen the case for a somewhat dispiriting explanation, which we discussed, the black bear hypothesis. This is also from Coast to Coast and Tim Bennell. Go on.
I'm confused. So this guy is discounting the theory of Loch Ness Monster being an eel ball.
Yeah.
Proposing that Bigfoot is just a bear.
Yeah, he went left with Loch Ness Monster, went right with Bigfoot.
Okay.
Always zigzagging.
Just making sure. Yeah. Hard to hit that way. It's harder to hit.
Serpentine. So in examining the proverbial black bear hypothesis, Foxen collected 4 key data points. Sasquatch sightings by the way of Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, or BFRO, the black bear population in states in Canada, and Canadian provinces where the creature is known to live, the respective land areas, and the estimated number of people living in those areas. Those are the 4 key data points. Putting all this information... Go on.
Sorry, total random question. It just hit me. It's gonna bother me. Why doesn't BFRO actually pronounce their acronym like MUFON does? BFRO.
You cowards, go for it.
Bro. The challenge, Matt Moneymaker. Do it.
This is the Werewolf Radar Challenge to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. If you're listening, pronounce your acronym like MUFON, you cowards.
Cowards.
Do you expect anybody to take you seriously? You gotta pronounce your acronym.
Now, putting all this information into mathematical models, he observed that a significant positive association was found between Bigfoot or Sasquatch sightings and black bears. The study ultimately agreed that on average, there should be 1 Sasquatch sighting for every 900 black bears in a given state or province.
Okay.
Yeah.
That said, Foxon conceded that although the correlation between suspected Bigfoot encounters and bears is particularly strong in the Pacific Northwest, this specific misidentification theory cannot necessarily be applied to North America as a whole. That is because
Australia or Asia
or any other. It seems there is a large hairy ape that is bipedal on almost every corner of the world. What is the Russian one? The Alma?
The Alma. I think
is there a British one?
The Wild Man, kind of. There doesn't seem to be a French one. I looked into it.
That's because they're like locking their kids up and they have like wolf children. The French are weird.
Europe seems to have a knack for getting rid of things.
Fair enough. We had one. We got rid of it. That's what the Knights did.
Yeah.
They used to have dragons too. Now, that being said, where was I on this? The Pacific Northwest, the misidentification. That is because let me enter a little bit more. This specific misidentification theory cannot necessarily be applied to North America as a whole because, he noted, Sasquatch sightings have been reported in states with no known breeding black bear population. So I guess what would that be? Florida with its skunk ape. I don't believe black bears be in Florida. I'm sure. I think there is an Ohioan Bigfoot too that likes to play in the sunflowers. Obviously, I don't think there's a breeding population of black bears there. Or maybe there is. We should go hunt a black bear in Ohio.
Well, we could look it up probably pretty easily.
Synchronicities with Ohio.
In those instances, he posited that, among other possibilities, the perceived cryptid encounters were likely misidentifications of prosaic animals. I'm sorry I pronounce everything so poorly.
Prosaic
English
animals.
Isn't your first language. It's okay.
God's languages. And that's only for my mom. Human and prosaic animals or humans in the form of the homeless population and hunters.
That is a weird way to say that.
So if they're not black bears, Mr. Foxon says that it could possibly be homeless population and hunters is what you're identifying.
A human in the form of a homeless population.
The sentence. Okay, now that I hear it out loud from someone else's mouth, it's insane.
Yeah.
But what they're saying is that Bigfoot, Sasquatch could be a homeless person or a hunter, but at the same time, what human is like 7'5" on the reg and like 500-pound body mass, if not more, you know, like Bigfoot is putting on some is thick, you know?
Sure. I mean, the idea of somebody living as a recluse in the woods and, not wanting to talk. Yeah, not wanting to be friendly towards outsiders. That tracks. I could see that.
It's in 1,000 Disney movies.
Maladjusted, poor soul, live the damn dream out there, not having to put up with anybody's bullshit, being a monster in the woods. I could see it, but
writing their manifesto.
Again, I will say it crossed my mind because of how many people, when they talk about Bigfoot encounters, one of the things that they mention time and time again is how human the face looked.
Yes.
They're like, the face looked so human. And that makes me think that, are these just people? Is there a society of people who maybe there's more people living as recluses in the woods, kind of living a nomadic, self-reliant life than we like to think.
But only the largest of our population. Like Bigfoot is.
Well, maybe it's
Bigfoot's a wall.
Sure. This is very true.
Again, we might be looking at multiple explanations, right? Because there's kind of different manifestations of it, right? Depending, it's not always identical to this, kind of Sasquatch morphology. And a lot of the lore that comes out of Europe in particular does talk about the wild man, like Jordan mentioned earlier, and the idea that it's literally a man. It's a human being that just lives outside of kind of the boundaries of civilized society, and that there's even some potential archetypal representations of that being describing humanity's separation from nature and living in more agrarian types of lifestyles. I'm sorry, I just went on a very academic rant, but
no, but it's true. And Janet in our chat agrees, so like pigs, when they go feral, they become like boars. They grow husk. They become almost an entirely different species, if you will. Who's to say that, human goes out and it lives hermit life, starts having to do the things that you would to live that lifestyle. You do successful. You get enough protein, you increase mass. Next thing you know, you are the creature. You went feral.
Grows back. Your original fur grows back.
Maybe that's why I can't grow facial hairs, because I refuse to go outside when it's cold.
I would also like to say that when people talk about like how human Bigfoots look when they see them in the face, boy, what a sentence that was. How human in the face Bigfoots look when they see them. It also kind of feels that way when you look at a gorilla, though, Like you look at a gorilla or a chimp or something, you're like, you see this kinship in them, that is often startling.
Which is not very bear-like.
Which is not very bear-like, is it?
Now, like, there's reports of dogmen in various states of the U.S. Now that I bet has a lot of correlation to black bear populations.
Yeah.
Because like
I do think that's more likely, because of the shape of the head, right?
But we've seen so many. The shape, like it's just bears are just small snouted dogs. They like the same things. They like getting thrown a steak every once in a while. They like toys.
They love to
like being scratched behind the ears.
They do. Yeah, they like to just sit and stare at the horizon. But that's my segment. Truly, I just wanted to talk about this study, this Sasquatch study, insinuating or implying, or I forgot the right word, but it is reporting through statistical evidence that a lot of Sasquatch sightings are actually just black bear encounters. It does not count for everything. It does not count for everything, such as various evidence we talked about. Like,
what's a good test?
What's a good test? How do you tell the difference between a black bear?
You're in the woods.
Yes.
You're camping. You look up, and holy shit, it's Bigfoot. Or is it?
Mm-hmm.
Could be a black bear.
Sure.
In a Bigfoot costume.
Sure.
How do you test? How do you test to see if this is the real Bigfoot or one of these fucking black bear imposters that you hear about?
I think the hands.
So you throw it a ball or something and see if it can catch it.
I throw it a ball. It catches
what a great move, because that's all reflex.
The
Bigfoot won't even have time to think.
A bear can do it too. Bears can catch.
Yeah, but after years of training at some sort of bear camp.
Here's what I'm looking for. I want to see the fingies.
Yeah.
So bears don't have fingies, but you know what does? Bigfoot does.
I think
apes do.
I think that underhand tossing an orange or a grapefruit, a real easy grab, and the way that it grabs that thing out of the air, you're going to know it instantly.
I will, because of the fingies. Bears don't have fingies.
Yes.
They have the ability to grab because their hands move like this, but they don't have fingers.
Gonna pull their basketball skills and just
palm it out of the air. Yeah, a bear would have to
flinching.
A bear would have to drop it to the ground and pick it up that way, or maybe catch it with both hands. This is a perfect test. I think this is an approved Werewolf Radar approved black bear Bigfoot test. Toss them an orange.
Toss it a ball.
Mm-hmm. If it's a black bear, you're done for.
Yeah. if it's Bigfoot,
you just met a friend.
And then
you just opened up a new trading vendor. All right, shit. Good stuff. Okay.
Also, Paranoid in the chat informed me that the UK has a canal monkey.
Whoa. Wow.
We'll talk about that eventually.
You remember we talked about the kudzu apes in Northern California? It sounds like that kind of thing.
We'll look into that.
Yeah, we'll go. Yeah, it'll be a whole thing.
That's the speaking skull.
Okay, I would like to take up the speaking skull, if I may. Or are we moving straight on to?
No, take it.
Okay, I'm taking it.
I'm
taking it. Give me that skull, you freaks. Okay, so I just moved across the country. I won't disclose where exactly, but it's a city and it's new and they have big apples here. Huge
Providence.
And salsa.
Mm-hmm.
The best salsa in the world is made here. So I in the spirit of keeping things thematic, I went to the New York Post and I found 7 of the spookiest urban legends in New York City. Not that that's where I am.
No, you're in a different city that's new and has big apples.
I'm several miles beneath New York in the rat chambers. The ancient rat chambers the city was built on. Okay, so 7 of the spookiest urban legends in New York. Here we go. You ready? I'm going to rapid fire these shits.
Go.
Empire State Building, Bermuda Triangle. That's right. I said the Empire State Building, Bermuda Triangle.
As one option?
For centuries, sailors have feared wandering into the Bermuda Triangle, the patch of the Atlantic Ocean that allegedly turns navigation systems haywire and swallows ships without trace. A few years ago, New York City drivers had similar fears about an equally terrifying place. Midtown.
I knew it. I knew it was going to be something stupid like that, like the blocks between 45th and 70th Street.
Yeah, they really nailed it. Around 2008, drivers started complaining that within a 5-block radius of the Empire State Building, their cars would inexplicably die and refuse to start again. Weird. It was almost every day, says Roni Yakobovich, manager of the New York City Tire and Auto Care in Hell's Kitchen. We used to pick up those cars, take them a few blocks, and they would start. His best guess is that radio signals from the broadcast beacon on the tower were disabling alarm systems in cars, preventing them from starting. Crazy.
Can you imagine being that guy to be like, we need more tow trucks. We got to keep moving these cars just 2 more blocks. All hands on deck.
Out of the radio doldrum. Yeah. About a year ago, the phenomenon disappeared as mysteriously as it began. Yet the broadcast beacon is still there.
Well, then something was activated. What mystery? But what?
Pretty wild.
A little bit of Montauk energy going.
Yeah. What year was that again?
That took place in 2008, but has since ceased.
Well, I can't blame Max Headroom.
Here's the tale of the buried treasure on Liberty Island. Also, I don't know if I would call any of these spooky New York posts.
That first one is spooky, legitimately.
Okay,
like, what could be doing that? Was it a pirate?
That is strange. Buried pirate treasure on Liberty Island. Immigrants used to pass by the Statue of Liberty with dreams that the streets of America were paved with gold. Maybe they should have been looking underneath the statue. That's where Captain William Kidd is said to have buried a stash of loot. He was hanged for piracy in London in 1701. It's absolutely possible that the treasure is there, but people have been searching for 3 centuries, says Greg Young of the Bowery Boys, a blog dedicated to the history of New York City. Fueling the legend is the fact that Captain Kidd lived in New York City for 4 years in a house on Pearl Street where he could have kept an eye on the island. that rules to me.
Well, I mean, let's get in there.
But there's no evidence that pirates ever actually buried treasure. Sorry.
When I'm not pirating, I've got a place on Pearl Street.
See, that's the difference between you and me. I believe that the excavation of the Statue of Liberty, just if they dug 10 more feet, they would have found this gold.
Dig up her bones, cut off her head.
They just didn't go deep enough.
That's a beautiful way to cover up some kind of like secret cache of anything, right? Just put a landmark on it.
Well, we all know that what's really buried under the Statue of Liberty is the bones of the Giant of Liberty.
Which is its own type of gold.
It's the Colossus of America.
Yes, exactly. The statue was built in honor. It's really more of a tombstone.
Yes, it's a tombstone. Yes, of course.
Yeah. So, but be warned, the treasure may be protected by ghosts. Okay, it's spooky. It got spooky.
Oh, yeah.
One account says that what?
No, you've got to protect the treasure with the spirits of your...
Naturally. Yeah. That's why when he died, he looked out that window and pointed his ghost right at the island, so that when it shot out of his body, it would go to the island and protect it. That's why he had that house, so he could see it. Okay. One account says that a century after his death, some soldiers at nearby Fort Wood went to a psychic to locate the treasure. They followed her instructions and began digging on the next full moon. Their shovels struck something hard. A chest. They struck something else next. A skull.
Ooh.
Suddenly, an apparition rose up from the hole, cutlass in hand, and chased the soldiers off. When they later returned, the chest was gone. Wow.
Shut up.
So the ghost... Shut up. No, they didn't.
I meant shut up. I have goosebumps.
Yeah, no, same. No way.
Stop, you're scaring Roger.
I got spooked. I'm not into this paranormal podcast for getting spooked.
Well, here's the thing about that legend. So what happened? The ghost popped up. Get out of here, you lubbers.
Oh, God.
And then And then it's okay. That was the scariest part. And then after it chased those guys off, it was like, well, I guess I better get to reburying this treasure somewhere else, son of a bitch. And then I had to spend the whole night like reburying it somewhere else. Where would it take it?
What if this is a Scooby-Doo episode? What if that was a man in a mask?
Oh my God. And he jumped up and he scared them off.
Buried.
No, he figured out a way. He figured out a series of tunnels, and these guys did the work, and he popped out and scared them off and then took the treasure. It's genius. It's genius. Roger, was it you?
I didn't buy my apartment using doubloons.
Oh, there you have it.
They require credit. They just don't. They just don't accept doubloons.
I don't know. Pretty sure your landlord is a pirate. Okay, next up, Cropsey. Y'all know about Cropsey?
I know about Goatsy.
Cropsey's fucked up. There's a movie about it. In the mid-90s, Ariel Abramowitz went to a camp across from the notorious disused mental institution, Willowbrook in Staten Island. She recalls counselors taking campers to an old building on the site with something like blood smeared on the walls and spooking them with tales of a boogeyman named Cropsey. Allegedly, he was a respected community member who went mad after his son died at the camp and ran into the woods vowing revenge. Hang on, I'm going to sneeze.
I get scared when Jordan sneezes. He likes to mute it. It's a jump scare to me. He's a gentleman and a scholar, truly.
Very polite. Much appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then sometimes he forgets to hit the mute button again.
Oh boy!
Oh no, he was just surviving. Was that a good one?
I'm back.
That one was wild. My ears popped off. Slid under the door. Ran into the woods vowing revenge on campers. They made it look like this crazy guy. They made it like this crazy guy kidnapped kids who didn't behave, says Abramovitz, who now lives in Hoboken. It was like a scare tactic. Willowbrook was ripe for urban legends, says Josh Zeman, director of the 2009 documentary Cropsey. And there really were kids disappearing from that area.
It sounds very Jason-esque, you know?
So it was natural for people to put the two together. But Cropsey might have been real. Andre Rand, a former janitor at Willowbrook, was convicted of kidnapping and first-degree murder of a Staten Island child in 1987, and later with a 1981 kidnapping. He's currently serving 2 sentences of 25 years to life and will become eligible for parole in 2037. So this guy was basically like kidnapping kids from the camp.
Yeah.
As two that we know of. But there were kids disappearing, and he's been convicted for 2 of them. But it was all true. Cropsey was real and true, it turns out.
Right? Yeah. So that's really creepy. And it reminds me, like, my experience with New York was that, like, there is so, like, the way everything rolls out, like, I guess the energy of it feels so much like if someone wanted to disappear, you could, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
If someone wanted to make someone else disappear, they could easily, right? Like, it's really that struck me. And like, there's so much room for like all this bizarro, like creepy stuff.
New York, especially upstate New York, their woods are very unpenetrated kinda and thick. Like you go
Sleepy
3
Hollow.
you go 3, like you can't see past 3 trees. Like it's totally like dark and hidden. And there are countless anarchist communes that I know of that are living off the grid in those forests.
Nice.
Let alone all the wild men we were just talking about previously
all the wild men
who could be there as well. Yeah. And then black bears who are learning to log and build their own houses.
The northern equivalent of the Everglades. It's just like
definitely upstate
goes
New
out
York
there to like to go wild and become its own thing.
Next up, we have one that they're just calling Haunted Habitations. Years after John Lennon was advertisement.
Redacted.
I remember when he was redacted.
Censored.
Years after John Lennon was advertisement.
Canceled.
We all know what you mean. Don't worry. The censors won't get us.
Years after John Lennon was shot dead in front of his Central Park West apartment building. Why does this keep happening?
Brutally, viciously, gorely.
This is the worst.
The details.
Listen, we do have this Werewolf Radar fortune to where we can subscribe to every magazine. And by fortune, I mean $100.
Outside of his Central Park West apartment building, Dakota, his widow Yoko Ono saw his ghost sitting at his white piano. She claims that he turned to her. Oh. She claims that he turned to her and said, "Don't be afraid. I am still with you." When he was alive, Lennon himself claimed to have spotted a figure walking the halls of the Dakota, whom he referred to as the Crying Lady Ghost.
Oh, ghost.
Other residents are said to have encountered the specter of a little girl about 7 years old. That's much scarier. About 7 years old, smiling and laughing and greeting people in the hallways.
Yeah.
The Dakota's original owner, Edward Clark, had an interest in the paranormal and would often host seances to communicate with the dead. The more you play with the paranormal, the more likely you are to experience paranormal activity in the future, says paranormal researcher Jessica Jewett. She believes that when people are murdered suddenly and violently, their spirits linger. She believes that, huh? Did she come up with that? In John Lennon's case, his life was cut short in his prime. He was only 40 years old. Someone like him was happy to be alive. He was working. He had a small child. He had an unfinished business, tons of heroin to do, and a family to terrorize. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
Julian. Yes.
It's a prime recipe for a classic haunting. Nearly 50 blocks south at the Chelsea Hotel, some residents believe tragic Sex Pistols rocker Sid Vicious is still kicking around the place, though he died in 1979 and not at the Chelsea. Instead, he may or may not have stabbed his girlfriend Nancy Spungen to death at the hotel a year earlier.
Deaths did, because heroin's a hell of a drug when you mix it with everything else.
We're pretty sure. And if anybody is haunting, it's Sid and Nancy. If anybody's haunting the streets of New York.
Yeah. Ed Hamilton, author of the book Legends of the Chelsea Hotel, Living with Artists and Outlaws of New York's Rebel Mecca, says the elevators mysteriously stop at random floors. Supposedly, it's the ghost of Sid getting on, too lazy to take the stairs.
That's okay. Never mind. That sounds like the most truthful sentence about a ghost I've ever heard.
Next up, we got the sewer alligators, famous sewer alligators.
Dude, hit me with that. I can't believe this is probably going to be true. That's what I'm betting.
Panic over underground alligators started with a 1935 New York Times news report with the headline, "Alligator Found in Uptown Sewer," but about several people who caught and eventually killed an 8-foot gator found in an open manhole at 123rd Street in the Harlem River. Fucking crazy. Experts say an alligator in the sewer isn't so far-fetched. Tons of rich people were bringing exotic pets and animals between the 1920s and 40s, explains the Bowery Boys, Greg Young. Bowery Boys getting a lot of shout-outs in this one. Though common legend blames people flushing baby alligators down the toilets, it's more likely that they were dumped down sewer grates and manholes. There have been about 12 sightings of alligators in the sewers over the years, but you would need many more to create a thriving colony of them beneath the city, offers Fran Capo, author of Myths and Mysteries of New York. Just 4 years ago, writer Joyce Hackett found herself nearly face to snout with an alligator on a side street in Queens. There it was on the wet asphalt, crouching motionless, she wrote in The Guardian of the experience. I thought of my dog, poised to hunt, and wondered if the gator's stillness was a prelude to lunging for the ankle of one of its hecklers.
It always is.
Gators love those preludes.
I have family in Louisiana, where you just like live by a lake that has an alligator in it, because this is Louisiana, and that's what they do. They just kind of like sit still, and the next thing you know, you have to save yourself. It's crazy down there.
It's called gating.
It is called gating.
They're a gator.
And now I do it well, but that was my first time, and like the gator almost got me.
Yeah. Now this one, the last one, it's called Mole People. Weeks ago, diners at West Village hotspot Da Silvano were startled when a subway grate on the side of 6th Avenue lifted and a shadowy figure tossed a smoking road flare into the restaurant. Was the vandal a sign that the Mole People, those who shun life above ground in favor of the city's deepest subway passages, were back and seeking revenge on surface dwellers?
We're back? Okay, we're doing a deep dive on the Mole People of New York, it turns. Let me Google that.
Jennifer Toth, author of the 1993 book The Mole People, Life in the Tunnels Beneath New York City, says rumors of people living underground started as early as the 1800s when the city first started building the subway. Funding has increased to close off abandoned tunnels to keep people from making their homes there. But with more than 700 miles of subway tracks, she says there are plenty of people still down there. Today, there's a thriving community of homeless people living underneath the city, Toth says, though they're not quote-unquote mole people, they're just people. But it gets weirder. A common reason for delays during subway construction is when workers come across a colony of people living underground and refuse to move forward, Toth claims. F-train delays? Now that's scary. And that's how they chose to end the article. But great job, New York Post, Lindsey Putnam, Tim Donnelly, crushing it over there, talking about urban legends in New York City. What was an urban legend from you guys' hometown?
Oh, from mine, in my community, we had a house that was owned by a witch.
Okay. But she was a homeowner, yeah?
She was a homeowner, yes.
Nice. Good
and she wore like very old-fashioned clothes all the time, like witch-like, like in the late 80s, early 90s, like probably clothes from the 40s, I guess, is what I'm saying.
All witchy.
Yeah, she dressed in very old clothes.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, like, because our school was on a hill and we saw into her yard. So we saw when she left, we saw when she went home. Like this was all on our like lunch and recesses, you know.
When she showered, when she
showered, I learned a lot about life.
Unbelievable.
We were little pervs. So I apologized about it on a daily basis.
There was a hole in the wall where the boys could see it all.
We then saw her like go through. This is from my memory and stories of what we were hearing. We saw her go through like the porch door without opening it.
Interesting.
And the swing on her patio would swing when there was no wind, like someone was on there.
Okay.
And one day we heard a scream.
Whoa.
That originated from that area. That was my urban legend growing up. We had that house.
We had a similar situation with a woman named Garnet who it was said had a bunch of unpacked appliances in her house because supposedly the story went that she inherited a bunch of money and she used it to buy all new appliances for herself, like an oven and a fridge and things of this nature. And her brother was supposed to come and help her unbox it all, but then he died. And so it all just like stayed there and collected dust. Which was like really sad, but we used to sneak down the alley to like dare each other to go close to her house. And my friend says that he saw a monster in the alley that we called MM, which stood for mysterious monster. And I did see one time there was a like a trailer back there. I did see like the curtain open and it looked like there was nobody behind there. But at the end of the day, I think what we were dealing with was just a woman who was, you know, fighting a battle with mental illness.
Yes. And depression,
and probably just wanted to be left alone and maybe like liked by the townspeople.
And to be honest, we were afraid of her, but there was never a sense of we have to stop her. I think we would have been friends with her if she like so it was all like, do you kids want a grilled cheese?
Monster Squad.
Do you kids like candy?
And we've been like, we sure do, Mrs. Witch. I mean,
my house is made of gingerbread.
So I have a fun one. Speak on that note, I've kind of got a couple, but do you know O'Kane Park in Lakewood?
Kind of.
The house. So there's a house that supposedly is like owned by like the O'Kane family, and
I thought you were going to say Dracula.
Old lady, Mrs. O'Kane, who lives when we were teenagers or like in elementary school. I had a friend who was convinced that she was the Kathmandu, as in like a shape-shifting, like a werewolf, but a cat. Like total. And he was like convinced that he saw her transform. Like he was looking in her window, like he was snooping around at the park at night, and he was looking in the window and saw her like walking around and then transform into a human, like a cat human hybrid kind of creature. And so
now
he was totally convinced that she was a Kathmandu. Yeah.
Look, Werewolf Radar Pingos will know that I've been on that Catman kick, and I believe that there is a rash of shape changers doing shape changing work all over the country. And I want to know more. If you can turn into a cat, message us on Twitter.
I'll also have a Twitter poll. We did one last week about, are you a vampire? And 41.7% yes.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good, honestly. Yes. I mean, people are looking for them all over the place. Nobody's been able to find them. History Channel, Discovery Channel. We do one Twitter poll, and we get 41% vampires. That's a huge hit.
No is the greater one at 45.8. And you're like, where's the rest of the percentages going? That's not equaling up to 100.
So non-vampires outnumber vampires.
Yes.
So
the living are still winning the war.
For now, Jason.
But 12.5 of them are spider boys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, at the end of the day, spiders are the ultimate vampires, right?
Well, I think what the radar meant by that was someone who eats spiders.
Oh, okay.
Who lives the spider life.
Like
a Renfield of sorts.
Yeah, it's like a crusty little Renfield. Have you guys seen the trailer for that movie?
It's looking good. It's looking like it's good. Nick Cage's one of his funner roles.
Yeah, I'm glad that Nick Cage is back to doing what he wants to do.
Reboot Renfield as like a badass or something?
Yeah. Watch the trailer. I recommend it. It looks fun.
Okay. Now let's pass the skull to you, Jason, because you wanted to talk about something specific that we are all about as well.
I chucked the skull. He caught it.
Got it.
He caught it with a hand.
He's a Sasquatch.
Bipedal ape.
And kind of segues into another urban legend that when I grew up in Aspen in the 80s.
Yes.
So, which basically means as a Gen Xer in the mountains, I was wild and unsupervised.
Sure.
And I had a lot of land to cover. So the only restriction was that I had to be home when the streetlights came on, which equated to one lamp at the end of our apartment complex driveway. And pretty remote. But I was instilled with a fear of two things. One was being shot by wandering onto the wrong property. And two was fear of falling into an abandoned open mine shaft, which are everywhere throughout the Colorado mountains, especially around resort towns, because they're all founded as mining camps. But as also, they were intentionally left open because, according to legend, the mines were always left open when they were left to allow the Tommyknockers to leave and follow the miners to the new mine.
Okay.
What are Tommyknockers, you may ask?
I do, yes, please.
But according to legend, they are akin to a leprechaun or something like brownies, fey-type creature that inhabits mines and generally tend to be benevolent but mischievous. They're usually about 2 to 3 feet tall and have disproportionately large heads and hands. They're often seen wearing green or some kind of glowing, luminescent kind of garb.
Really?
And the color green is very distinctly usually associated with them.
Or like a blinding, brilliant, sequined, luminous coat.
Yeah, and luminous I've never heard before. Like they can emanate, like they're very shiny, or they'll
either be dressed like a Western leprechaun or like Elton John.
Yeah. Right. That's very flamboyant.
Yes.
I like it.
But also the kind of just green glowing light, right?
Okay.
Like disembodied, like orbs.
Yeah.
Kind of like spook lights. Right?
Sure.
Or even an odd mist sometimes. And more recently, they have been known to be associated with even spirits of deceased miners. That sometimes if a miner dies in the mine, they have potential to become a Tommyknocker.
Shit, you don't want that.
So,
or do you?
They're known to.
Everyone's life is different, Jordan.
Seems a little bit. So the kind of haunted spirit ghost Tommyknockers don't seem so fun.
Yeah.
They are known to knock on
Tommies.
Knock, right? You hear the knocking. That's meant to warn the miners of an impending collapse.
Okay.
They are known to steal and hide or move a miner's gear. They eat miners' lunches. They tend to knock off workers' hats. They're offended by whistling inside the mine, so it's not wise to whistle when you're in the mine. They appreciate offerings of food and drink, and the benevolent Tommyknockers tend to beckon respectful miners towards finding fortunes, so a good vein, or the malevolent ones lead disrespectful miners to their doom. If you're nice to Tommyknockers, they'll be like, "There's gold over here." Exactly.
If you're mean to them, they'll be like, "Oh, this is gold too," and then you strike the vein, and it's like a vein of rattlesnakes instead of gold, and they all come squirting out.
Yeah, just an endless sinkhole or something
right,
bottomless pit kind of thing.
Right.
It's said that if you actually see one in fully manifested, that it would be a warning of your death.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
That sucks, because that would be like a cool day for me.
Yeah, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I saw a Tommyknocker. Oh, no.
Oh, shit, you did? What was he doing?
Crap.
He was doing like a little dance. It ruled. He seemed really happy, but you saw the whole thing. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm so lucky, right? Right.
Yeah.
Just kisses him on the forehead.
I don't know how to tell
good
you
night.
this, but good night. It's been nice. It's been great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jordan. How do you feel about that thing I asked you to do?
I feel great.
Because we're about to get to the origin.
Okay.
So, do you have it?
So dance, puppet.
I'm ready. Is it time?
Dance. Yes, it's time.
Have you heard of the Tommyknockers in the deep, dark mines of the West, which Cornish miners here? And 'tis no laughing jest, for I am a Cornish miner, and I'll tell you it today of the knock, knock, knock of a tiny peck as we work in the rock and the clay.
That is an excerpt from a Cornish mining ballad. And Cornish immigrants made up a substantial population of miners in the United States in the late 19th century. And they brought with them tales of knockers, which in the Cornish form was very much more kind of leprechaun-y, fey-like.
Sure.
In Colorado and the West, they became known as Tommyknockers, and they became incorporated into the wider mining culture, not just exclusive to the Cornish.
I wonder where the Tommy came from. I wonder if it was like a person who was always talking about them, and they were like, "You heard about Tommy's knockers?"
Yeah. Oh boy, here he goes again.
It does. It's a
just won't shut up about him.
And don't even get me started about Tommy's wife's knockers. Welcome to Colorado.
Yeah. So some sources imply that the American Tommyknockers also tend to be more ghostly and than their more fey-like European counterparts.
A bit more of a green orb, if you will.
More in the sense that more of the stories of them being like actual ghosts of the miners.
Oh, interesting.
And that their activity, but I would argue, like, you know, if a poltergeist, right? Like if it happens in a house, it's a poltergeist. If it happens in a mine, it's a Tommyknocker, right?
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, if it happens if it happens in the street, you're getting arrested for assault. But if it happens at a hockey game, you're a fucking, you know, sports star.
Exactly.
You're an athlete.
Right. So they were still, though, very much associated with, like, there's still a positive element to their presence, though, because many miners would refuse to enter a new mine unless they were assured that Tommyknockers were on duty.
Oh,
Some
okay.
Sources, right? Like, I'm not even going in there unless.
Who would assure them of that, though?
Tommyknockers, the other miners.
Okay, right? All right.
Or they would, you know, that seems to be the case. They're just like, no, we're good, right? I was in there earlier, heard them knocking, it's good to go.
Yeah, I feel like the boss would say that.
Let's get to work.
In fact, they say that if you don't work extra hard, they'll stop knocking.
Yeah, and that gets to a whole other thing in a minute. But let's see. Because some of them tend to be more overtly sinister. Possible explanations could be that rocks and support beams pop and crack under pressure. Fluorescence of rocks. There's a lot of fluorescent rocks down there. Gas escaping, poor air quality. There's lots of things going on. Sleep deprivation, hallucinations. I don't know if I think personally, I've experienced some of the most intense hallucinations when I'm sleep deprived. Sure. And we know that miners work some really crazy long hours, poor lighting, earth moving along fault lines, miners in distant tunnels setting off explosives, machinery sounds, although that would only explain more recent, right? Since the development of machinery.
Sure.
The stories of knockers go back hundreds upon hundreds of years, at least. Stories, sometimes there's a thought that just they were told to keep kids away from dangerous open mine shafts, or it could be a legit ultra-terrestrial psychoreactive phenomenon interacting with humans who have an intimate relationship with their environment, cultivated over many generations.
Sure.
That's my personal theory.
Could be. Definitely could be.
So a few cases of local relevance in Cripple Creek, the Mamiar mine in Cripple Creek and Raven Hill.
Okay.
There's a lot of stories around it, whispers and odd shapes. People like shadow beings. People have seen them lurking around. People would hear the voice of a child that would lure miners to their deaths.
Oh, no.
And apparently these issues became so much of a problem in 1895. The mine was closed specifically due to the anomalous activity.
Crazy.
Don't do that, kid.
So whatever's going on there,
Could you imagine having that laid out for you at your first day on the job?
Right?
Just like, okay, so you might hear like some settling from the struts and the beams and stuff.
Always wear your hard hat
and what have you. Always wear your hard hat. And if you hear a child beckoning you like deeper into the mine,
calling your name,
specifically, like, just think to yourself, like, how would they know my name? And just take a second, take a breath, and don't follow the voice into the bowels of the earth.
And generally, as a precaution, that's some paranormal preparedness there for you.
Yeah.
If you ever are anywhere and hear your voice being called, and there's no one around, right? You don't need to follow.
Just don't follow it. You don't need to follow it. That person does not need your help. That's a trick. That's a monster. It wants to eat your gelatins.
That being said, the reverse can also be true with some monsters. And they'll call your name, and if it's farther away, it's really close.
It's right there. Mm-hmm. You know what? Just don't
stay inside.
Go out. Yeah, just stay inside.
You don't need it. Right?
Food can be delivered nowadays. Just pay that delivery fee because it's cheaper than being slaughtered by a monster.
And throw the delivery guy an orange to make sure that he's a hominid and not a black bear.
I like how COVID set up a precedent for contactless delivery. You can now just like cite fear of monsters as a reason, a request. Put that in the notes. On the next delivery, put that in the notes. Be like, contact this delivery. I am afraid of the monsters.
Sorry, monsters. Reason,
please be safe.
Monsters. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just down the road from Cripple Creek is Victor, lesser known place, but really neat old mining town. And speaking of COVID, our Savannah and I made our first venture outside of the house, breaking quarantine after we got vaccinated in the spring of 2021 to break quarantine. And it was a visit and an investigation in Victor, Colorado. So our friend and journalist Heidi Beadle invited us to join her for a story, which was to spend the night at the Black Monarch down there. The town of Victor was a battleground for the labor wars, which was primarily involved millionaire mine owners hiring organized crime syndicates to disrupt miners' workers' unions, bombing, train derailments, mass shootings, and other atrocities were common tactics for these ruthless criminals. And the Black Monarch was a gentleman's club and a brothel. And the Hotel Victor had the entire top floor used as a morgue one winter because they had too many casualties. And so this is actually a pretty common thing to like store a body somewhere over the winter if they died in the winter, because the ground is too hard to make
to bury them.
Just it's harder to dig a grave in the winter when the ground is frozen.
Nowadays we have excavation tools that don't mind the cold earth. Back in the day, you had to use a shovel.
But you think about these mining wars were so intense that over the winter they had so many bodies they needed to use the top floor of a hotel to store them. So obviously, between all of the antics at the Black Monarch, obviously the gangsters were hanging out at the Black Monarch and the Hotel Victor, all like lots of crazy Wild West mining war stuff.
Sure. Antics.
Yeah. So we stayed at the Black Monarch and we interviewed the owner and of the Black Monarch and the owner and some of the staff members at the Hotel Victor, which is just down the block. And we didn't catch anything, but both hotels, folks had reported strange lights. Specifically, orbs of light coming into the town and into the hotels, and along with other more conventional ghostly activity. But that leads me to believe, number one, I'm pretty much convinced at this point that the entire town is haunted because of a lot of the activity.
Sure.
But also, like, there was at one point the whole thing burned down. Like, half of the town burned down because one of the women in the brothel was supposedly cleaning her dress with gasoline, which
we've all been there
at the time.
Sure.
And it caught a spark and caught things on fire, and like, yeah, half the town burned down. But
that'll happen.
I suspect that at least some of the haunting activity could be attributed to Tommyknockers, particularly the orbs of lights and stuff. Sure. And as Jordan and I already know from Silvercliff, spook lights like that. Silvercliff was also a mining town, and had those weird light anomalies. So the little guys want their pint too. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Town, right?
Yeah.
Especially if the theory is the truth, and that they're old, they're just the deceased spirit, or the spirits of the deceased miners, and miners want to drink. They worked hard.
Right. That is the one thing that they want.
My composite theory is that they are, in essence, a Fae type being, but because of the role that they play in the mine and the interaction that they have with the miners, when the miner dies, they get to, instead of go on and just be a ghost or a normal, human spirit, they can transcend and become one of these more Fae-like beings.
Kind of a mine elemental.
Yeah, right? Something deeply ingrained in the spirit of it. So there's one more, the Phoenix Gold Mine up by Idaho Springs. We've all seen it. If you've gone up the I-70 corridor, you see it passing when you go by. And apparently it has been, I had no idea, it was the site of murders. It was the site of some black magic mayhem. Supposedly some practitioners have gone and used it for rituals. And there's people who have said to have had full-on conversations with people who just vanish into thin air.
Oh, wow. Spook.
Yeah.
My aunt claims to have had an experience like that, where she went up to kind of the crater of Mount St. Helens, where
Mount St. Helens occurred.
Famously exploded. And she was talking to a guy, and he said, "That's a great looking ice cream. Where'd you get it?" And she said, "Oh, I get it right over there," and turned around to point. And when she turned back, the guy was just gone.
Just poof.
Just gone.
And she's sure it wasn't a Scooby-Doo situation in which he like ran real fast instantly and was already there with like 5 ice creams.
Could have been a Scoob, could have been a Do, but I guess the world will never know.
Hey. Nice.
I was rhyming.
So folks also claim to hear their name whispered again with the calling of the name.
Okay, now that was me.
Answer. that was you.
Yes, whispering most of the time.
It's like a Harry Connick Jr. song, isn't it? When I whisper your name.
Yes.
Portion.
Everyone's favorite.
Someone claims to have seen an apparition of a portion of an old dead miner.
Ooh.
Like someone had, crazy shit, something exploded, maybe like severely injured, and seeing them just like hunking around. The Ghost Adventures crew did an investigation there. And
now I always get forgetful. That's the Baggins crew, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm terrible. I'm a terrible paranormal enthusiast because I don't follow the ghost hunters.
Yeah, you don't follow the flash and the hype. You're an actual researcher.
Although I have to know about them. But I think you're right. Yeah, Ghost Adventures, Zach Baggins, all that bit. And yeah, they did an investigation out there, and apparently also they found some stuff. So check out the links, see what they got up to. But some interesting fun things part of Colorado culture. And I actually kind of want to make a bid, like, as Colorado is big on Bigfoot, big on Sasquatch, and yes, legit as a Colorado cryptid. And I want to get your thoughts on this. I kind of want to make a bid for Tommyknockers to be Colorado cryptid, because they are distinctly ingrained with the culture. But can we call them a cryptid?
See, that's the trouble. I don't know if you can call a Tommyknocker a cryptid. Like, would a leprechaun be a cryptid?
I don't consider fays cryptids. You know, cryptids are like Sasquatch, to where we just haven't discovered. But then Sasquatch transcends that too, and could also be a guardian protecting 94 different Earths.
This is true. Sasquatch sometimes seems incorporeal.
But I consider them more like...
Mothman's got some weird high strangeness thing going on. So
why can't fays be
line between a cryptid? Why can't they? I don't know. I'm going to actually leave that. That's going to be, maybe do a poll.
All right, I'm doing that right now so we don't forget.
Yeah. Leave it up to the Pingos to decide. Either way, I feel like Tommyknockers deserve a place in like the Colorado pop culture. We've already got some like local culture celebrations of them. There's a Tommyknocker Tavern in Creede, Colorado, which is a really cool mining town near the La Garita Wilderness, kind of on the western slope.
Okay.
We've got Tommyknocker Brewery, based in Idaho Springs. We got a good craft brew. If you like some good craft brew, down one with your Bojos. Not a Monstroko product. So I hope I don't get followed by for that.
Oh, they're already following you.
Oh yeah. I'll just hide in the bunker. And
there's room in the attic, there's room in the basement.
There's a Tommyknocker downhill race event in Victor that puts it all together. So that's my bid on Tommyknockers. Watch out for the open mines. Don't go falling in, and don't answer your name calling if you hear it in a cave or the woods.
Yeah. And of course, the Stephen King story, Tommyknockers.
Oh yeah, that thing. Oh yeah,
which was
who's Stephen
bad.
King? Stephen.
In his estimation, they're aliens.
Right.
As they always are. Folks, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Werewolf Radar. Thank you so much to Jason Cordova for coming and joining us. Thank you so much to Paranoid Cryptid and Janet Bravo and She's Bought a Doom for coming and kicking it in the Zoom room. If y'all are Dark Council members, feel free to come do the same. You can come kick it in the Zoom room. We announce it and tweet the link. And
hour before we do it.
And y'all can come and hang out with us, and it's usually a lot of fun. Thank you to Chuck from Snappy Little Numbers for our intro and outro song. And come check us out on Twitch Mondays, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. We're usually playing some game or another.
Exactly. We're never just chatting. We refuse to just chat. We always have to play a video game.
Who the fuck just chats?
It's weird.
Do something. Do a trick.
Do a glitch. Do a
Mario. Do a barrel roll. What am I forgetting, Raj? Check out our Patreon content. Twitch.tv / no. Patreon.com / Werewolf Radar. You can get an extra episode every week in the form of a grave nugget. You get some content, some merch. It's pretty dope. If you really like what we do and want to support the show, head over there. And if you'd like to support the show but you don't have any money, as so many of us do not, just go give us 5 stars somewhere. iTunes, Spotify, on the bus. Just tap someone on the shoulder and turn them to you and say, "Nice stars for Werewolf Radar." They'll know what it means. Until next time, folks, thank you for listening. And once again, on the count of 3, our sign-off line. 1, 2, 3. Punch the sky, Spaceman Joe.